This is demanded video on dual stack routing or Cisco dual stack routing. So would like to mention, actually I have received couples of email what is a dual stack routing, how we can enable dual stack routing, and how it work actually. So this is not a big deal. However, if you have write the mail to me, I am going to create video on it. So dual stack routing is nothing special than enabling IPv4 and IPv6 both network on same infrastructure. So suppose if you have a topology like this or more different than it, suppose you may have a switch, and after switch some devices which is connected with IPv4 and some devices which is connected with IPv6. So might be some devices not able to support IPv6 or some devices may not able to support IPv4. So this is what the scenario where you can enable dual stack routing. So now IPv4 network can communicate to IPv4. Likewise, IPv6 network can communicate to IPv6 network without adding any new hardware on your infrastructure. So single command which we need to enable IPv6 unicast routing on router. Now they're going to forward and receive IPv6 traffic. So by default on Cisco gear or Cisco devices, IPv4 unicast routing is enabled. In order to enable IPv4 multicasting, IPv6 unicasting and multicasting, we need to execute some command. So there is nothing special. What we going to do in this tutorial or a video, this loopback which I am going to emulate as a LAN, similarly on headquarter router. In real case, you may have a fast Ethernet or gigabit Ethernet or maybe something else. You can assign IPv4 and IPv6 IP addresses on interfaces. One more thing which is additional to you, you can put multiple IP address on same interfaces, even if you are using IPv4. What I mean to say that, suppose this is the IP address which I am going to enable assign on this loopback interface. Using the secondary keyword, you can put multiple IP addresses, or you can configure multiple IP addresses on your interface. By the way, so this is the switch. Suppose this is the switch connected with IPv4 and IPv6 host. Likewise, on another hand or another side, IPv4 and IPv6 devices are connected. But it doesn't mean IPv4 network can directly communicate with the IPv6. Never ever, until we going to configure something else like NAT PT. So we need to perform such kind of task in order to communicate IPv4 and IPv6 host simultaneously, or communication between IPv4 and IPv6. We need to enable NAT PT and some other configuration also available. But in my case, this is the simple loopback IP address 192.168.1.0, and then point-to-point network which is 2.0 and 3.0. Likewise, this is the IPv6 address which I am going to use. So hopefully my devices is up and working. I am going to use 2901 router. So this is router. So first I would like to show you how to enable routing. Actually, you can disable by default IPv4 unicasting is enabled by executing command no IP routing. No IP routing. You can disable IP routing on your router. Once you disable IP routing on router, now your router not going to look up anything on routing table. So it is now working as a host. Now you can assign a gateway. By the way, I'm not going to use this one. Similarly, IPv4 multicast routing this keyword allowed IPv4 multicasting. Similarly, IPv6 unicast routing you can enable, and IPv6 multicast routing. But in my case, I am going to enable IPv6 unicast routing on both router in order to enable dual stack routing. So the command is IPv6 unicast routing. So I have enabled both of router. Similarly, I am going to use loopback 0 on both router, and let me assign description. This is LAN. Right, and then after I would like to assign IP address, as I have mentioned in topology or a diagram I should say. This is IPv4 address, and now IPv6 address 2001:1/64. Similarly, on serial interface, IP address 192.168.2.1 255.255.255.0. Make sure the interface is enabled, and IPv6 address 2002. In your case, you can put anything, but for make it basic configuration, basic understanding, I am using this network addresses. So hop over to the other router, interface loopback 0, I think I have already. Similarly, 192.168.3.1 255.255.255.0, IPv6 address 2003:1/64, and this is interface serial 0/0, IP address 192.168.2.2, which is IPv4 address, and IPv6 address going to be 2002:2/64. Make sure interface is up and working. So let verify it. Do show IP interface brief, which is shows IPv4 address, which is up and up. Likewise, do show IPv6 interface brief, which shows IPv6 addresses. So now we have configured IPv4 and IPv6, as we can see in diagram. We required some sorts of routing top of it in order to establish communication from this network to this network. So simply you can enable static routing or a dynamic routing on top of your topology. In my case, I am going to use RIP. So router RIP on both router, version 2, no auto summary. The network which is going to common 2.0, and branch router should have network 1 as well, and headquarter router should have 3 as well. This is for IPv4 route. Do show IP route. Do show IP route. Now we can see we learning network from RIP, but we are not learning network of IPv6 until we going to enable IPv6 routing on this topology. So this is very simple. IPv6 router RIP, which is RIP-NG, IPv6 router RIP along with the name of instance, which is test. So once you execute this command, now we need to move to the interfaces, which is loopback as well as serial. Enable, and this is interface serial 0/0, IPv6 RIP enable. Likewise on this interface loopback 0, IPv6 RIP enable, excuse me, this is test, and then after enable an interface as 0/0/0 IPv6 enable. Now we can verify the IPv6 routing table as well. So do so IPv6 root, the command which verify the routing table. Now we can see we do have root from the RIP. It may take a little bit time to populate this network as well. Excuse me, I think I have enabled RIP on both of it. So I come to know there is a network 2001. Likewise, you should also have a network, I think, I left interface look like 0, I think so. IPv6 RIP test, and then after enable. Do so IPv6 protocol. Yes, I have enabled RIP, and these are the interface which is participating. So do so IPv6 root. This is the command which you can use. There we go. The next thing is verification. So as I told you earlier, there is nothing than a command which we need to enable on router. Rest of thing going to be happy. So suppose we're going to check the connectivity. Source address loopback 0, and then repeat it 1000 times. So I am sending traffic from this network to this network, which is IPv4 traffic. Similarly, what I'm going to do, I'm going to sending IPv6 traffic from headquarter to branch. So this is the headquarter. I would like to ping 2001:1, and source address going to my loopback, and I'm sending 1000 packet. Now you can see simultaneously we sending and receiving data on same infrastructure, which is IPv4 and IPv6. So as I mentioned earlier, this is not big deal. You need to execute a single command, IPv6 unicast routing, on your router. Hopefully now this is clear to you. Similarly, if any person or any learner or audience have any sorts of doubt or a problem which they're looking for to ask question, they can send email to me. In this video, this is all about. In upcoming video, we're going to discuss the interesting things.